Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. My name is Mal and I am the owner and maker of Made by Manny and Mal. In today's tutorial, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, as you know, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, I don't do a ton of like 3D type things on the channel. But when I went to TumblerCon in June, I picked up some 3D book sleeves from Dimensional Drinks, and I am so excited to do this tutorial for you guys. I was really intimidated to try out these sleeves because some of the artwork that you guys are doing on these sleeves is like incredible, amazing, so detailed, so precise, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do that. So we are going to make a book themed tumbler. We're gonna go with a Jane Austen theme. I love Jane Austen novels, and I thought it would be perfect for this tumbler design. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope it inspires you to create something of your very own with these book sleeves. There's a ton of other sleeves too. I'll link the website down below in the description box if you'd like to try one of the other ones, but they are all the rage right now, and I'm really excited to try them out. Everything is linked down below in the description box as always, and let me know what you think down below in the comments. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go! Alright, so to get started on our tumbler, we're using a powder-coated white 20-ounce skinny straight tumbler from Craft Haven, and I'm going to start by doing a cheat glitter method or a quick glitter method. So I took Opal Majesty, which is a beautiful fine cut white from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I mixed it into about 25 to 30 milliliters of epoxy. I'm using the Flynn Sisters Artist Cure epoxy here, and I'm going to mix that together really well and then spread that all over my tumbler. This is going to give us a really nice sparkly base to work on. On the top half of our tumbler, we're going to do a Jane Austen type collage design. So I wanted to have a really nice neutral white pretty background for all of those collage elements that we will add later. For this tumbler, we are going to be using the Dimensional Drinks book sleeves. I met them at TumblerCon and they were so wonderful and nice, and they gave me these book sleeves to use, and I am beyond excited to use them on a tumbler. So we've got our cup that has been kind of cheat or short method glittered. We put our glitter into our epoxy. I used about 30 milliliters, and that's going to increase the girth of our cup, like the thickness or width of our cup, so that they will fit into these book sleeve holes. So with that 30 milliliters of epoxy, these are going to slide right on and fit perfectly, and then we can secure them on really, really nicely. What I'm going to do first, before I put them onto the tumbler, is decorate them. So we're going to just decorate them piece by piece individually. We're going to do all 3 books on 1 cup, and we're going to decorate our tumbler just up until or right after the books end, so that it looks like a seamless thing. And then we'll attach everything, put it all together, and we'll have a final completed design. I'm really, really, really excited about this, and I hope that it turns out the way that I'm envisioning in my head. So I'm going to bring you to the top-down view, and we are going to start decorating our books. So when I was hopping around Pinterest, of course, for inspiration, I found this photo of all of these Jane Austen novels, and I actually have the Pride and Prejudice copy of this style of book. So I was thinking I would kind of replicate that style of those book spines on our 3D books. So I'm going to do 3 Jane Austen books, obviously, and I'm going to base paint each one of those to match the cover of the book that it goes with. So we're going to do Pride and Prejudice, which is my favorite, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. So I'm going to use my favorite acrylic paint. This is the Delta Creative Ceram Coat acrylic paint, and I'm using Bubblegum, Mediterranean, and GP Purple, and I'm just going to do a coat on the entire surface of the book. I'm not painting the pages of the book yet. Obviously, I want those to be a different color, so I'm avoiding those, just trying to be as careful as I can as I paint. But I'm going to base paint those and then let them sit and dry for about 30 to 45 minutes before I move on to the next step. For our book pages, I'm going to use Pop of Color paint in the color Ecru. I wanted to have these look kind of like old and weathered a little bit, so I went for a creamy kind of color. You can leave them white if you want, that's totally fine too, but I wanted them to look a little bit more vintagey, I guess. So I'm just going to paint those very carefully, make sure that I get them as well covered as I can, and then we will move on to our glittering. Yes, we are glittering the books. I'm going to use UV resin on my books here to glitter them. You absolutely can use regular epoxy, but that will take way longer. So I decided to go with UV resin so that I could cure the epoxy as I went. So for our glitter, we're going to use the K, High Tide, and Love You Bye. I wish now looking back that I would have used darker colors, because the white vinyl that we put on to the books later shows up really well on the High Tide, the blue, but on the other lighter colors it's kind of hard to see unless you're looking at the right angle or in the right light. So that's one piece of advice. I would use darker glitters if you're going to use white vinyl like I did, but I really wanted to match the book covers that I used as my inspiration, so I went with the lighter colors. I still really like how it looked, but anyway, hindsight's 2020. So what I'm doing here is spreading the UV resin onto the books with the glitter mixed in. I mixed in enough glitter so that my UV resin was well pigmented, but not chunky. You can see it's still really liquidy, easy to spread. You don't want it to be too like gritty, because then it won't be smooth and you'll have to add more UV resin over it to make sure that it's smooth. So you want that right consistency. So I did that on the surface, or the front, I guess, of each book. And then I cured that, each of those, for like 2 to 3 minutes. And then I moved on to the spines of each book, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm popping any bubbles with my little fancy lighter there. And I'm going to glitter the backs of the books as well. When I initially did this, I was thinking that I would have the books kind of like askew in a stack. So I wanted to make sure that every surface of the books were glittered so that if they showed, they would look like cohesive and seamless. I changed my mind later on, but anyway, I just wanted to be ready for whatever I wanted to do, I guess, if that makes sense. So once the books were glittered, I moved on to UV resining the pages. So I just spread a really thin layer on each of the page areas, cured that, and now we're ready to move on and start creating the elements for the actual tumbler part of our tumbler. Now, as I said earlier, we are going to be doing a collage on the top portion of our tumbler, and I wanted to go for that full, just romantic, old vintagey type feel. So I got some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby in this really pretty like ephemera type design, and we're going to use that later to print out some Jane Austen book quotes to put on our cup. So I just cut that down to be an 8.5 by 11 size versus the 12 by 12 so I could print on it. And now I'm going to go in with all of my romantic elements for our collage. So I measured the height of our books all stacked together, and they were about 3 inches. So I measured about that width from the bottom up onto my cup so that I knew where to stop creating my collage, because the books are going to cover that bottom portion of the tumbler. So what I'm starting with here are some really pretty vintage florals. I found these on Creative Fabrica. Everything I'm using for the collage portion and everything else in this video will be linked down below in the description box if you want to use any of the same stuff I'm using. For this first round of images, I printed everything on my clear sticker paper. This is Avery brand. It's my favorite. It's the best clear sticker paper I've used. I got it at Walmart, so I'll have that linked as well. But I printed out some of the vintage florals, and then I also got a pack of like Jane Austen-y graphics or like clip art. So I printed out one of the houses from one of the books. I just thought it would be a nice little touch. So I'm just going to cover up as much space as I can. These are really just serving as background pieces just to add a little bit more interest and dimension.
So I'm going to place those on to my tumbler. If you don't want to use clear sticker paper or clear printable vinyl, you can also use clear water slide. It's totally up to you. I just didn't feel like sealing water slides, so I went with the clear sticker paper. I also added another little floral element that I cut out of regular printable vinyl. This is opaque, obviously. We're going to add more printable vinyl elements later, but I wanted to add this one in this spot while I was thinking about it and saw that it would look good in that spot. Now we're going to move on to some more elements. I got this other piece of scrapbook paper as well, and I'm going to basically just make some big chunks. I'm going to distress the edges. I'm just going to tear off, as you can see here. Now, a little tip, if you are tearing your scrapbook paper, if you want the white, like torn edges to show, you want to tear towards you. But if you want less of those white torn edges to show, you want to tear away from you. So you can see here that I'm tearing kind of in both directions to make it look a little bit varied, but just keep that in mind, just depending on how you want your torn little distressed pieces to look. So I'm just tearing out different shapes and sizes. I wanted to add these onto the tumbler as another kind of additional layer, background element / texture. This is obviously totally optional. You don't have to do this, but I thought it would be a nice little ephemera touch. So once I've got my pieces torn out, I'm going to take some Mod Podge, and we're basically just gonna decoupage this onto our tumbler. So I'm going to Mod Podge the back sides of our paper, and then I'm going to stick them onto our cup wherever I think they'll look good, and then we're going to Mod Podge again right over those to seal them onto the cup. And I'm just going to do this all over, just try to fill in as much space as I can. While our Mod Podge is drying, we're going to get back to our books. Now, I created all of the images or graphics that I'm going to use for my books. I just made them all in Canva, and then I cut them out of white vinyl. If you guys would like access to these files, please let me know and I will put them up on my website. If you just want to create your own, you totally can. I don't know how many of you are going to want to make Jane Austen tumblers, maybe, but if you guys want access to these files, just let me know and I'll put them up for you. But basically I created one book cover, and then I created obviously the spine for all three of the books. But because Pride and Prejudice is the only book cover you're actually going to see, that's the only one I took the time to create. And I kind of, again, tried to go for the same vibe as the book covers I used for inspiration. And they have a lot of like filigree elements, a lot of really fine wording. So I just tried to emulate that when I was creating my cover and spine designs. And as you can see here, I am reverse weeding everything. I put my transfer tape on first, then I laid the decals down onto the book, and now I'm going in and I'm weeding away all of the excess vinyl. When you have decals that have a lot of really, really fine lines and small pieces, doing this makes weeding them a whole lot easier because the adhesive will stick better to your surface than it will to the backing, and it will just make weeding way, way easier. So I highly recommend that for any super fine details in your decals that you have. So once I had that on there, I put a clear coat of UV resin over it to seal it in, cured that for a couple minutes, and now I'm going to move on to all of my book spines. And I'm going to essentially do the exact same thing. I'm going to reverse weed these decals. I'm going to weed the majority of the vinyl out once the decals have already been placed on the book spines. It's just going to make it a lot easier with all of these super fine lines and details. And of course, after all the vinyl was applied, I sealed all of it in with another coat of UV resin, just put a thin little strip on it, spread it out with my finger, and then I cured each of those for just about 2 to 3 minutes. And now we are ready to assemble our book stack. To assemble our book stack, we are actually going to use regular epoxy. I didn't want to use UV because I wanted it to cure and I didn't want to have to worry about the UV light getting in and under and all of that stuff. I just wanted to use regular epoxy. So I'm going to spread a thin layer on the top of our bottom book, which is our purple one, and then also on the middle layer, which is the pink one, as you can see. And we're going to stack those, and then I'm going to put the top book on top. And I'm going to make sure that these books are lined up as perfectly as I can get them. As you can see, I did not do them like askew or tilted or diagonal on each other. I decided to go for just a regular straight book stack. I use my cup cradle to help me keep it straight. And I just let that sit and cure overnight. So this is totally cured. You can see the books are all together. They're all one piece now. And we are ready to put them onto the tumbler. Now, I will tell you, this was difficult because I put those elements onto my cup, which made it a little bit thicker. So I really had to do a heck of a job shoving this tumbler into the book sleeves. But eventually I got it. Everything was fine. Now I did put the book sleeves on a little bit too far, so we've got a little bit of our tumbler sticking out from the bottom, which is totally fine with me. I don't mind that. What I'm going to do now, as you can see, I've already base painted it. I did that earlier. I'm going to UV resin and glitter the bottom of the tumbler so that it just blends right in with the bottom of our book and looks like it's almost one full piece. It's a book with a big lump on it in the back, but don't worry, we won't tell anybody. It came like that, okay? So once we cured the bottom glitter portion of our tumbler, we're ready to go in with a real coat of epoxy now. So I'm going to start with the epoxy on the top portion of my tumbler. I took my tumbler off my turner. It was a whole lot easier to apply the epoxy this way with the books and everything kind of in my way. So I applied the epoxy at the top half, and then I also applied a very, very super thin layer of epoxy to the entire book sleeve area, just to give it a little bit more security. We're not looking for like smoothness or anything here. We got that pretty good when we did our UV resin, but you don't want to use UV resin as a final coat for anything. So I wanted to put some more regular epoxy over that to protect it. So once that coat is cured, we're ready to move on to our next layer or step for our collage tumbler up top. Now these elements I got in a pack on Etsy, and I just printed them out of my printable vinyl. This is matte printable vinyl from HTV Ront. It's my favorite. The matte and the glossy versions are both great. So I'm just going to take these elements and place them on my cup really wherever I think they fit well or they would go. My goal here was to get as many of these elements on the cup as I could. I was falling in love with this vibe as I was making this tumbler. It just made me want to read a whole bunch of Jane Austen novels, and I think I will, and I think I'm going to look at this cup while I do it. This cup is definitely not one that I'm going to like drink out of or use, but I'm thinking maybe I'll put some little like pink roses in it or some peonies and just use it as a little vase and keep it somewhere where I like to sit and read. Just have it be more of a decor piece versus a tumbler that I'm going to take with me. So I'm going to continue putting these on my tumbler until I'm satisfied with how it looks, and then we'll move on to our quotes. So if you remember that sheet from earlier, I took that and I just created some little quotes with different fonts from different Jane Austen books, just some of my favorite quotes from her books that I like. Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to cut them out, and then I'm going to take my lighter and I'm going to burn the edges of them to give them an old kind of distressed look. Make sure that you are super careful when you do this. Please do not burn your house down. Make sure you have like a tub of water or something next to you just in case. and be careful that you don't burn your fingers, okay? So I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna do this on each of my papers. Some of them I burned, some of them I just tore the way we did those papers earlier that we used for the background, but I just wanted them to look old and kind of distressed and worn. So whatever method you want to use to achieve that look, go for it. After I had distressed and cut out all of my quotes, I was ready to apply them to my tumbler. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did earlier with the scrapbook paper. We're going to like decoupage them on to the cup. So I'm taking my Mod Podge again and brushing it onto the back of each little quote. And then I'm going to stick them onto the tumbler wherever I think they go. I definitely created too many quotes. I wasn't able to use all of them, so I just had to pick my most favorite ones and put them on. I didn't want to overwhelm the cup with quotes, but I definitely wanted to have some of Jane Austen's words on there because that's the whole idea for this thing. So I'm brushing my Mod Podge on again, very, very thin layers here. You don't need a lot. You just want to stick the quotes onto the tumbler and then immediately go in with another coat over that. Once I've done that, I'm going to sit and let them dry for just about like 30 minutes. And then I'll go in with another coat, let that dry for 30 minutes. And then finally, we'll do a third coat of Mod Podge over all of our collage elements to make sure that everything is well sealed before we add epoxy. After our final coat of Mod Podge was dry, we were ready to move into our final coats of epoxy. I did 2 final coats of epoxy over our collage portion and then 1 final coat over the books. So once those are done, we are all done. I am so happy with how this tumbler turned out. I love this collage. I might have to just make a regular tumbler with this Jane Austen collage theme that I can actually use and bring with me to places because this one will definitely not fit in a cup holder. So anyway, that's it, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are not already subscribed. I upload brand new Tumbler tutorials every Tuesday and Saturday. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.